Why do you vote? So a little bit about me is like, yes, I've gotten into the political landscape and I've always been interested in these more critical thinking situations. I mean, I'm a bit of a narcissist, so I had a visions on my impact on the world for a very, very long time. And that's just how I perceive myself. But funny enough, I think of it like this, and then I went to college and I majored in politics, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, despite me majoring in politics, I didn't vote. I didn't vote. I understood politics. I understood a lot about the candidates, but I didn't vote. And yes, I wasn't a fan of either candidates back in the day. I think at that time the candidates would be Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and then eventually Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And yes, I don't like either of them, but not voting at all throughout my entire tenure is crazy. Don't you agree? It makes me a hypocrite considering how much I tell you the value of voting. So the reason why I say this is not to kind of expose myself, but to realize that now my understanding is important and my understanding is needed, just like your understanding is needed in terms of realizing why people are not voting. People don't trust the system or they have no faith that their vote matters. And when there's no faith that their vote matters, when there's discontent of the nominees to choose from, when society portrays the only election that matters is the federal election, it makes you very doomer pilled. To be completely honest, you're doomer pilled in the sense that everything is not incentivizing me to make a vote that matters. So you can understand why you talk to someone and go like, "Did you vote?" and they say no. I'm like, I mean, I get it. I get why you didn't vote. I get it. I understand why you didn't vote. For me, who preaches politics all the time, there was a time where I didn't vote as well. There was. So that understanding can bridge a gap, an important gap. But moving forward into the conversation, how how are you going to get involved? How are you going to make voting matter? Why do you vote? The people who do. And why is the only voting that matters the federal election? I'm going to tell you some realities. The reality is the most important election throughout your entire lifespan is your local election. But why don't we know that? Why don't we understand that? Why is the culture set up on only the two presidential nominees? That's the first question. Second question, how much do people really understand about the candidates? Do you only understand about what social media tells you? Do you understand what CNN tells you? What do you truly understand about what the candidates are advocating for? Another question is, for you as an individual, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself that I hate both of these candidates. Well, I mean, I can vote this third candidate, but doesn't even matter. He's not going to get put in. So why is it a situation where you're forced to vote for two people every year? The most important position of all time, and you only can give your thoughts on one of two people that matter. There are so many layers in terms of our current voting culture that doesn't maximize the representation of the people, that doesn't maximize voter participation, that doesn't maximize voter knowledge. So why is our society like that? Well, our society built itself, and you could say it's potentially intentional, where they want specific people voting. That's the truth. Obviously, if you're educated, you're going to vote. Obviously, if you're older, you're going to vote. Obviously, if you are dedicated in terms of familial culture to a Democrat or Republican, it's kind of embedded into you to vote. But why is it like for the average person who doesn't grow up Democrat or Republican, who goes to school like a normal person, why is the average person only really told to vote for your two presidents? I'll tell you why. It's because society allowed it. And I'm going to break down a few things that I think society should do better. I've talked about it plenty on my podcast, but I'm going to continue to talk about the question of why do you vote, or more specifically, why you should vote. First things first, when it comes to public education that I was criticizing a little bit earlier, public education does a very poor job in making you, or kind of growing you to understand the value of your votes. The only thing you're really told is to vote. And honestly, you can't vote until you go to college. Maybe you're 18 in high school, about to graduate, but it needs to be built up. It needs to be embedded into you, not to tell you who to vote for, but to tell you how the voting works. Well, the moment you hit sixth grade and start really entering society as a productive member in it, to an extent, when you're going to be able to start buying things, selling things, that's when you start going to go out. That's when you start experiencing society beyond the reach of your parents. At that point, people should start understanding, in one aspects at the very least, the government. The government and the value of voting. They should tell you the aspects that there's two major parties. They should tell you where to vote. They should tell you the value of voting, what voting means to our society. They should tell you that, yes, there's a federal election after the president obviously does his term. There's a federal election for the most part, and the primary candidates are going to battle it out for the most part. When it comes to the opposing candidate side that doesn't have a returning president that's about to run, you're gonna have Republicans kind of battle it out, and Democrats kind of battle it out to find your primary nominee. The government, the education to tell you that when it comes to voting, you really only can choose two people that really matter. But there are other candidates you can consider if you don't want to go to two major parties. There will be third-party candidates as well, and what it means when you vote for those third-party candidates. They should tell you the value of these individuals getting donors, getting certain types of groups that align with them and what they're trying to advocate for. They should tell you that although the federal election is more important, or the federal election is more known, the most important thing you could do in terms of affecting your area is the local government, local elections. The thing that's going to immediately impact you is what's going on in your state government, what's going to go on in your city, your district. That's what matters the most, to be honest. The federal election is important, but the local election is even more important to you as an individual. But education doesn't. You have the option to take a government class, but even that government class is left to be desired. You won't probably leave that class really thinking or really holding on to information that you're going to rely upon moving forward. I mean, some people may, but the average student go like, I don't care, who cares? Make them care. Make it relevant to them, because politics will always be there. And to be honest, for every student that enters high school in that 4 years, you're going to be part of not only a local election cycle, but you're going to be a part of a federal election cycle as well. So there's ample opportunity for them to truly relate to the voting, the value of voting in their area. So that's one thing. Public education should do better. And society should do better as well, and trying to inform the people on this stuff. And that's why my podcast and other political content creators should continue to preach the value of voting, the value of local elections, the value of federal elections, and all the in-between and the nuances of what is government. Now, education, spreading the word, that is something we can continue to do. But in terms of our current system, I still think it has its flaws. I've talked about it extensively. The fact that you only could choose one of two candidates, the fact that a third party is not truly represented in terms of your votes. These are things that matter, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I do think there are voting strategies that can really change things. And that includes something like star voting. Star voting can make a huge change in making your vote more representative. You can vote for multiple candidates, and ultimately, your vote will be honest to who you truly want to win, not the lesser or two evils nonsense that we see time and time again. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, I've told you what I think about how we're preparing our people, our kids, how our current voting system can have change that will make our society better. But it really starts from you as an individual. It does. It needs you to be a part of it. Do you want change in your society? Then why do you vote? What kind of change do you want? Because you could vote at the federal election, but why don't you vote at the local election? Why don't you pay more attention to politics? Do you want your vote to matter more? Then why don't you advocate for voting reform with organizations like Equal Vote or Star Voting? You just can be part of the bigger solution. The government wants to run the way they are. They don't want third parties to get more influential. They don't want people to be much more mindful in terms of the type of votes that they are casting. They don't want the people to be more informed in terms of the nuances of the government and understanding the lies that are being told in their face. But you should want that for yourselves. Don't let these politicians, these rich people, control the way that we represent ourselves in the government. I think that's the most important thing. So again, why do you vote? Consider that question, answer that question, and think about, I can increase the value. I can be a part of the solution. I can realize that voting does matter. I vote for a reason, but I want that reason to be more powerful. And that'll be important in the long run. I do hope you guys enjoy, of course. If you did enjoy today's podcast episode, rate it 5 stars, like and subscribe on YouTube. Check out the website, www.purplepoliticalbreakdown.com. Y'all have a good one. Take care and peace. Here's a quick clip for you. I just have a question for you who are answering. This is the clip I made for my podcast episode for our Mindful Mondays. And my question to you is, why do you vote? Why are you participating in our government? What do you want from the government? And if you vote because you want change, if you vote if you want improvement, my next question is, are you a part? Are you voting for your local elections? Are you advocating for voting reform that's more representative of your vote? Are there things that you can do to ensure that voting can be much more powerful than it is today? If that is yes, then get involved. Get involved. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, then this is going to be a cut down, shortened version of the full podcast. This is the most important point of the podcast, but if you want to see the full video version, then feel free to watch it on the Roku app, on Pod Nations. If you want to see the full audio version, make sure you go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify to listen to the full thing. Hope you guys enjoy this, like and subscribe, and let's return back to the episode.